Today we'll be delving deeply on the stories of a great man who helped our nation get independence from its colonial masters. His name is Joseph Kasavubu. Joseph Kasavubu was born in the village of Kumadizi in Mayombe district in the Basque Congo in the west of the Belgian Congo. Different sources list that his birth was in 1910, 1913, 1915 and in 1917, though 1915 is the most probable date. In 1927, Kasavubu enrolled in primary school at the third-year level. The following year, he transferred to a minor seminary in Mbatakiela, 50 kilometers away from Shela. There, he completed his primary studies and began learning Latin and humanities in the preparation for instructions at Major Seminary. An industrial student, Kasavubu graduated second in his class in 1936 and was admitted to the Kambwe Seminary in Kasai Province. He intended to study 3 years of philosophy and 5 years of theology before becoming an ordained priest. Following the completion of the former courses in 1939, he was expelled by the bishop. The genesis of his involvement in politics began when Kasavubu joined a political organizing work while he was still employed by the colonial authorities. Following the resignation of his leader on 21st March of 1954, Kasavubu was elected president of the Alliance des Bakongo, ABAKO. Under his leadership, the group swept the first open municipal Leopardville election in 1957 and he was elected mayor of the Dendale district of the city. Kasavubu quickly became known as one of the first Congolese leaders called for independence. At first, he advocated for independence from Belgium on a that-year timeline. In his inauguration speech as the mayor of Dendele, Kasavubu retaliated his demand for independence, drawing a reprimand from the Belgian colonial authorities, which only strengthened his image as a Congolese leader. On January 1959, the Abako political gathering, organized by Kasavubu, erupted into violence, sparking the Leopardville riots, a pivotal movement in the Congolese struggle for independence. Kasavubu was set to address a crowd of African nationalism, but the colonial authorities banned the meeting. They were unable to calm the crowd and thousands of Congolese began rioting. Kasavubu, as a result, was arrested along with several other leaders and he was imprisoned for inciting the riot. He was released 2 months later. Upon Congo independence from Belgium, the Bakongo won a significant number of votes in the new parliament, but not an outright victory. In a political compromise, it was agreed that Patrice Lumumba of the movement National Congolese (MNC) will be the prime minister and Kasavubu will face Jean Bolikango, a former mentor in Abako, for the presidency. The election of Kasavubu brought about a wide-ranging acceptance of the Congolese new administration. The new republic was immediately disrupted by political and military strife and regional secessionist movements, and the central government was paralyzed by conflict between the conservative Kasavubu and the leftist Prime Minister Lumumba. While Lumumba advocated for a stronger central government, Kasavubu preferred a more decentralized form of government that gave autonomous power to provinces under the free draw systems. Vumbu was regarded as a rather mysterious in his motivation and his actions, frequently preferring to stay silent or give ambiguous answers when he was confronted. His role as the head of state was theoretically ceremonial and far less influential than Lumumba's role as the prime minister. During the immediate upheaval following independence, Kasavubu took few steps and made few definitive statements, even as Lumumba appealed for international assistance to the Americans, the United Nations and the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, Kasavubu faced criticism from Abako and the president Fulbert Yolo of Congo-Brazzaville for not curbing Lumumba authoritarian actions. He resisted the pressure and on 13th August he broadcasted an appeal for unity and support for the government. On 5th September, Kasavubu dissolved Lumumba's government, which he accused of communist sympathies. Lumumba refused to accept the dismissal, therefore creating a stalemate that endured until 14 September when the army commander Joseph Desire Mobutu seized power and arrested Lumumba. Lumumba was later handed to Moise Tshombe secessionist state in Katanga and was murdered in an alleged association of Mobutu, Kasavubu, Moise Tshombe and the Western powers who had interest in the natural resources in Congo. Over the next 5 years, Kasavubu presided over a succession of weak governments. After the end of the secession of Katanga, Kasavubu appointed Tshombe as the prime minister in July of 1964 with a mandate to end the emerging Simba rebellion. Tshombe recalled the exiled Katangese. Tshombe recalled the exiled Katangese, Gintaramirie, and recruited white mercenaries, integrating them with the Emi Nationale Congolese (ANC). Many of the mercenaries had fought for Katanga, while Tshombe was the leader of the breakaway province. Despite the successes against the Simba rebels, Tshombe's prestige was damaged by his use of white mercenaries and Western forces. He lost the support of Kasavubu, who dismissed him from the post of the prime minister in October of 1965. Mobutu seized power for a second time on 25th November of 1965, now deposing Kasavubu and subsequently declaring himself as the head of state. Mobutu placed Kasavubu under house arrest before eventually allowing the deposed president to retire to his farm in Mayombe. Kasavubu died in hospital in Boma 4 years later in the year 1969, possibly after a long illness. My name is Christopher Kisemei and I am the African Historian.